Coffee with Tim Black.
Hello, my name is Tim Black. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a community activist and a teacher, and she's also running for the 14th Congressional District in New York against a 10-term incumbent corporate Democrat by the name of Joe Crowley. Last night there was a debate, and it's a thing of beauty, folks. You've got to see this. Now, I've got 3 clips of this debate I want to share with you. What you need to keep in mind here is Joe Crowley, in my estimation, you make up your own mind, of course, he believes that Trump is the problem. And Ocasio points out in pretty direct fashion that Trump's a problem, but so is Joe Crowley.
For 20 years, our rents have been going up, healthcare has been getting more expensive, and our incomes are staying the same. Not all Democrats are the same, and I am proud to be the only Democrat in this race that rejects all corporate money and champions and advances improved and expanded Medicare for all, a federal jobs guarantee, tuition-free public college, and the abolition of ICE. Now, I am proud to have inspired many of adaptations in this race, but what I think is really important is that in a district that is 85% Democrat, overwhelmingly working class, and 70% people of color, we deserve a working class champion.
Okay, thank you.
Right there. You know exactly what it is Alexandria supports or doesn't support. She's very clear. She says, I don't take corporate money. She says, I support Medicare for all. I support free 2-year college tuition. I support jobs program. I support the elimination of ICE. It's all laid out. Now, in contrast, I want you to listen to Joe Crowley's opening statement.
Mr. Crowley.
First of all, thanks a lot for this evening, and it's great to see you, and thank you for participating this evening as well. I think it's a good opportunity for us to have an exchange of thoughts and ideas about the issues of concern to our constituency. Born and raised here in New York City, I live in Woodside, Queens. I understand the needs of our community. I know that my constituency is looking for good paying jobs. They're looking for affordable health care. They're hoping that they can send their children to college and get a higher education. And they're also looking for retirement security. That's what really is the meat and butter of what my constituency is looking for. And I'm also proud to represent one of the most diverse districts in the United States. You name it, we got it. Every facet of it, from Queens to the Bronx, is full of diversity, and I draw from that strength, and I bring it back to Washington to fight against the #1 threat against all of us, and that is this president, Donald Trump.
So, did you see the difference between Crowley and Alexandria? When you had Alexandria being very specific about the solutions that she's submitting that would make lives better for people in New York, Crowley was more like blah 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 blah. Stuff you don't care about, stuff you don't care about, stuff that's not focused, stuff that's intangible, stuff that blah 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 blah. Somebody didn't come prepared, at least not to talk about real policy points. And he ended it. He ended his opening with that famous go-to.
I draw from that strength, and I bring it back to Washington to fight against the #1 threat against all of us, and that is this president, Donald Trump.
What did I tell you? It's all Donald Trump. Our #1 problem is Donald Trump. See, that whole tact I have a problem with. And you know what? I got a funny feeling that people in New York in the 14th District, they had problems before Donald Trump showed up. And I got to wonder, for every one of them, are they all thinking, my main problem is Trump, my main problem is Trump? Or are they thinking, my main problem is the jobs, and what's your solution? The health care, and what's the solution? Immigration, and what's the solution? Education, college, and what's the solution? Notice how Mr. Crowley had no solutions. And is it just me, or did it seem like Crowley was doing an infomercial for tourism? Like he was trying to get people to come to New York, like, hey, we got everything. They got it from the rooter to the tutor.
And I'm also proud to represent one of the most diverse districts in the United States. You name it, we got it. every facet of it, from Queens to the Bronx, is full of diversity.
Man, you're not here to promote tourism. You're here to debate Alexandria Ocasio on the issues that matter to the voters. Rookie mistake. I'm sure he's going to give us a lot of meat and butter.
And they're also looking for retirement security. That's what really is a meat and butter of what my constituency is looking for.
Meat and butter, potatoes. A lot of potatoes and meat, or whatever that was. Bread and potatoes. Anyway, let's run a little bit more tape and we'll see some more of Crowley not doing so well.
Let me ask you something, Mr. Crowley. Your opponent has criticized you for raising your kids in the Washington, D.C. area rather than in the district. What went into your decision to enroll your kids in Virginia schools?
First of all, I'm a lifelong New York City resident. I was born and raised here, and I live in Woodside, Queens, and I'm very proud of my being born and raised and instilled with all the values that I've taken to Washington from Woodside and Queens from my parents. My dad was a police officer, my mom was an immigrant. And those are the values I take back, especially now, given what we're facing in this administration. When I think of the daily attacks that this president has made upon my constituents, whether it was going after them in terms of the Muslim ban, I was down at JFK Airport. I was there helping connect constituents with their lawyers, being the go-between between the border agents and making sure that people's rights were protected. It's because I know this community. I was born and raised here. I love the city. I've gone to school here. I went to college in New York City. This is my borough. This is my city, and I love it very much.
Why doesn't Crowley have a more direct answer to this question? It's not a new question. People have been asking Crowley this question since 2011 when he moved to Arlington and bought the $700,000 house there. It's an easy question. You know they're going to ask it. So, and it's not just because, hey, we want to complain about where you live. It's that Crowley's also the DNC chair of the county of Queens, not Arlington. And he doesn't live in Queens.
Well, I just don't think that if a person loves their community, they would choose to raise their family here. They would choose to send their kids to our schools. They would choose to drink our water and breathe our air. And I think that it takes away a fundamental interest and understanding of our communities when we raise our families somewhere else.
Well,
on the point, I would say,
right there, the commentator wanted to move the conversation forward, but Crowley's a little upset, so he wants to continue to engage on this subject.
Somewhere else.
Well,
on the point, I would say,
somewhere else.
Well,
on the point, I would say, I was elected by the taxpayers to represent them in Washington, D.C. And that's what I'm doing. When I'm in Washington and working in Washington, I'm there to protect their interests, especially from the onslaught from this president. When it comes to my kids, I'd like to keep my kids out of it. Quite frankly, it's difficult to raise a family as it is. I know that people in my constituency and everywhere, it's very hard to raise a family this year. This job requires me to be away from them for a very long time, and I'm just doing the best that I can, quite frankly, as a father.
Oh, in fact, I wanted to ask you about that. I know as part of your bio is you had a father who was a small businessman in the South Bronx, but you were raised in the suburbs. So you felt a connection to both places. Isn't that sort of the same thing, except it's, 700 miles instead of 70 miles?
I think the difference is that I was 4 years old, and it was my parents that had made a choice in my life. But I know that when I have children, I want to keep them here. I want to send them to our schools.
Okay.
Booyah. Yeah, Alexandria, she scores points there. Crowley's points don't really land. And he plays the trump card. Oh, yeah, I'm doing the business of the people when I'm in D.C., fighting hard against Trump. Okay. That doesn't answer the question. It does not speak to it. And what he did, when he tried to go back at this issue again, another bite at the apple, the result was Ocasio had an opportunity to make another stark difference, which is, hey, when I have kids, they're going to go to the schools in New York where I live, where I serve. That resonates. And even though the commentator, I don't know how much juice Crowley has. I think he has a lot of juice in New York. He was kind of like comparing when she was 4 to Crowley, a grown, very grown man. So let's go to the last clip where Ocasio questions Crowley on the issue of PAC money, corporate PAC money.
I want to pick up on something you suggested before about the PACs and some of the corporate and real estate interests that have supported your opponent. Isn't it true that one person's special interest is another's legitimate community voice, right? I mean, if elected, would you refuse to take money, say, from labor union PACs?
Well, I reject all corporate PACs. So what that means is corporations that lobby for their own special interests. But I have worked with political PACs in order to get things done when they are constituted by people. But corporations and corporate PACs are really the real problem. About 99% of my opponent's donations come from corporations, big money, and lobbyist groups, and 80% of all of my donations to my campaign are less than $200.
That just isn't true. The people of this district know me. They know my work ethic. They know where my heart lies. That's why they've sent me back to Congress again and again, and I believe they will again, because of what we're threatened with right now.
What Alexandria just did there is what basketball fans refer to as a clinic. She just showed you how it's done. She exposed a corporate Democrat for being a corporate Democrat and laid it out perfectly. 99% of Crowley's donations are from corporations, big donor money, and lobbyist groups. Ocasio, 80% of her donations are people that give $200 or less. Only 1% of Crowley's donations were from individuals giving $200 or less. Now, what I think is very telling, to really seal this up, put a bow on this thing, is the true reason why Crowley feels that he will be reelected.
The people of this district know me. They know my work ethic. They know where my heart lies. That's why they've sent me back to Congress again and again, and I believe they will again, because of what we're threatened with right now.
The scary Trump. Crowley doesn't think you're going to reelect him because he does a great job as your representative, because he so identifies with the people there in the 14th district. He thinks you're going to reelect him because you are so afraid of Donald Trump, you got to have Joe in there fighting him. This election is coming soon, June 26th. I don't know if Alexandria is going to win this thing. I know that she by far would be a better fighter, a better public servant for the people than Joe Crowley. That's obvious. That's plain as day. I'm hoping that New Yorkers in the 4th Congressional District are ready for change. We need more people that speak truth to power, people that know the issues concerning the people and are willing to forego the big donations, to keep a level head, to stay focused on the reason why you should be a public servant, not to become a multimillionaire, not to buy a $700,000 house, not to fight Trump, but to fight for the people that got you there. And to do that every day locally, that's why they elect you. All right, guys, go find out more about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and her campaign. The link is in the description. This episode has been brought to you by justinformed.com. Go to justinformed.com, a social media site where all voices are welcome.